African Leaders Challenge.
Wealth of bauxite, iron ore and gold, renewable energy, and ICT growth.
The Business and Investment Forum is themed Reconvene, Reconnect and Re-engage, and is believed that trade and investment between Ghana and Norway will receive further boosting post-discussions. President Akufo-Addo has challenged his colleague African leaders to champion women's rights and become agents of change within and outside their borders. He said a firm stand against acts and threats of violence against women will fade it into oblivion. At the Positive Masculinity Conference in Kinshasa in the DRC, President Akufo-Addo promised to mobilize support to help transform Africa into an exemplary continent where sound policies and programs are introduced to promote gender equality and address discrimination and violence against women and girls.
One's right to live from violence is upheld by a number of international agreements. 25th of November is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. The day marks the beginning of the 16 days of activism. The African Union considers violence against women and girls as one of the most pervasive and yet least recognized human rights abuses in the world. For the first time, African leaders have gathered in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo to discuss and suggest effective measures to put an end to threats and violence against women. The Kinshasa conference was christened African Men Leaders Engage in Positive Masculinity Approaches to End the Scourge of Violence Against Women and Girls in Africa. They sought to mobilize commitment and galvanize action from men in leadership to accelerate the prevention and complete elimination of violence against women and girls in Africa. A former president of Liberia, Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, one of the few women allowed to address the conference, said the slow pace of women attaining the pinnacle of public and private sector leadership in Africa is worrying and demands far-reaching action to speed up the pace.
We believe that it is only you, Honorable Excellencies, Mr. President, who can use your leadership for change and for bringing action to scale. And we believe that your presence here today shows that you believe that ending violence against women and girls is a fundamental human right and a catalyst and foundation for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063.
Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo called on presidents and leaders on the continent to invest in women because it is an effective measure any developing nation can employ to improve its standard of living.
I invite lawmakers to continue their work in advancing progress for women's and girls' rights across the continent. I invite traditional leaders as gatekeepers of our moral and cultural values to work in helping to tear down the cultural barriers which prevent our women and girls from being equal citizens. I invite you all to become champions of women's rights and agents of change in and out of your borders, especially in ensuring that acts and threats of violence against women become things of an unwanted past.
President Akufo-Addo promised his unflinching support to actions to end discrimination against women and girls.
As AU Gender Champion, I remain committed to the policy and goal of mobilizing support to help transform Africa into an exemplary continent, where sound policies and solid programs all successfully elevate the existential situation of women and free them from the acts or threats of violence.
Leaders who represented governments, businesses, youth, traditional and religious sectors, among others, adopted a declaration with concrete actions and strategies to step up men's leadership and role towards ending violence against women and girls.
The Prime Minister of Denmark, Ms. Mette Frederiksen, has commended the people of Ghana for preserving the history of the country, which is promoting Ghana's tourism industry. On day 2 of her working visits in Ghana, the Danish Premier paid a visit to the Osu Castle, also known as the Christianborg Castle, in the Greater Accra region, located just off the shores and just by the Atlantic Ocean. The castle was built by the Danish in the 1960s before it was passed on to many different owners. Foyi Wadakon reports.
The Prime Minister of Denmark's visit to Osu Castle was to receive insight into the Danish colonial history, relive the past experiences at the then Fort Christiansborg. The relevance of this citadel continues to attract thousands of people from the diaspora and even Ghanaians for various reasons. The capture of the castle by Asamani and Akwemu in 1693 did not only show the tenacity and resistance of the Gold Coasters to colonial rule, but also serve as the seat of government during the Rawlins era from 1981 to 2000.
For generations like me to understand the context of how we lived in the past, and as authorities of the system, you can only make it happen. And that is the way we talk about it and the common heritage. And that establishes the common history and shared heritage between Ghana and Denmark.
Walking through the corridors of the Osu Castle to one of the condemned cells, the Prime Minister of Denmark, Ms. Mette Frederiksen, got a glimpse of one of the darkest chapters of the past transatlantic slave trade. These slaves were kept in dungeons at the ends of the castle, transporting them through the door of no return to the arriving ships. A minute's silence was held in honor of lost souls during the slave trade era. As part of a tour of the castle, Ms. Mette Frederiksen held a closed-door meeting with heads of the ECOWAS Multinational Maritime Coordination Center of Zone F. The center is on the premises of the Osu Castle with the aim to contribute to a safer and secure maritime domain for the marina in the Gulf of Guinea. The castle's origins can be traced to a lodge built by Swedes in 1652. 9 years later, the Danish built a fort on the site and called it Fort Christiansborg, Christian's fortress, named after the King of Denmark, Christian IV. For GBC News, Ofeyiwa Dakon reporting.
Hungary has extended an invitation to Ghana to take advantage of its advancements in technology as well as agriculture. The Deputy Speaker of the Hungarian Parliament, Mr. István Jakab, said such elaboration will boost Ghana's economy. Mr. Jakab said this during an interactive session between the countries at the University of Ghana as part of activities marking 60 years of Ghana-Hungary relations.
Bilateral relations between Ghana and Hungary date back to 1961 after Ghana became a republic under the leadership of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The relationship between the two countries has resulted in some mutual gains, especially in the area of trade. Hungary has also been instrumental in the training of some Ghanaian students in that country, as explained by some beneficiaries of those grants. At an interactive session with students of the Center for European Studies, a joint event organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Hungarian Embassy at the University of Ghana, the Deputy Speaker of the Hungarian Parliament, Mr. István Jakab, said Hungary is ready to support Ghana in areas it has competitive advantage, especially in technology, education and agriculture. Hungary has a population of 10 million and according to Mr. Jakab, the country produces double of its national consumption. He said innovative farming practices like drone technology and precision farming are inuring to their benefit. Precision farming basically uses technology to cater for the needs of individual plots and crops. The acting chief director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Mr. Henry Tichiminsin, assured the Hungarian delegation of Ghana's commitment to consolidate the already existing relations.
I wish to indicate that even though the current circumstances created by COVID-19 pandemic has affected all countries economically and socially, enduring friendships are critically needed to spearhead joint efforts to find solutions to the common problems faced by humanity. It is my hope, therefore, that as Ghana and Hungary mark this milestone, succeeding years will witness enhanced cooperation between our two countries for the mutual benefit of our people.
The encounter at Ghana's premier university is one of the series of activities earmarked for the celebration of 60 years of bilateral relations between Ghana and Hungary. Reporting for GBC News, Gifty AJ, Accra.
Mr. Isaac Ejiri is the 26th Director General of the Ghana Prisons Service. He was inducted into office to head the Reformative Institute at the Prisons Interdenominational Church in Accra. He pledged readiness for the duty ahead.
On August 1, 2021, the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, appointed Mr. Isaac Kofi Ejiri to succeed Mr. Patrick Dakumisa, who was proceeding on terminal leave. Mr. Ejiri is the 26th DG of the Ghana Prison Service and the 19th Ghanaian to hold the office, which had Mr. C.B. Moses as the first Ghanaian to assume that role in August 1952, having succeeded the last foreign DG, Mr. H.G. Hidley. He has tugged under his belt 26 years working experience, which includes a 5-year duty with the United Nations Department of Peacekeeping Operations in the Sudan and South Sudan as a corrections advisor and military detention manager, respectively. He is a seasoned prison officer who, until his appointment as DG, was the Deputy Director General of Prisons in charge of operations. At his induction ceremony in Accra, the Interior Minister, Mr. Ambrose Derry, congratulated the new DG and urged him to offer effective leadership to achieve the objective of ensuring peace and security in the country.
May the Almighty God direct his decisions, plans, and actions for the achievement of safe custody and welfare, as well as the reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners to ensure their smooth social reintegration upon discharge.
The new Director General of the Ghana Prisons, Mr. Isaac Ejiri, pledged to focus on inmates' welfare and trades training. Thus, he says, will help them acquire technical and vocational skills for their effective reintegration and contribute to public safety and security.
My administration is poised to review and improve on its agricultural operations, where we have comparative advantage to become self-sufficient in food production and generate more income to support the government.
The Right Reverend Emmanuel Bote admonished the new DG to make the Ghana prisons excellent correctional centers.
The 2021 Kofi Annan Peace and Security Forum, also known as CAPS Forum, will run from December 8 to December 9, 2021. The meeting recognizes the role of political leadership and international commitment towards democratic governance, peace and security in Africa. The 2021 gathering is a partnership with the Kofi Annan Foundation and supported by the governments of Germany, Norway and Sweden, with the theme Democracy and Governance in the Context of Complex Crisis in West Africa.
The often referenced third wave of democratization, which swept across most developing countries in the 90s, has produced mixed results. In Africa, while the overall democratic enterprise still retains some positive momentum, the process has been plagued by some distinct developments like intrastate conflicts that exposed the weaknesses of state building, characterized by the return of the military to power, constitutional and electoral manipulation. The annual CAPS Forum, initiated in 2019, brings together political leaders, diplomats, scholars and experts to dialogue and address contemporary peace and security issues on the African continent. At this year's forum, about 200 delegates are expected to participate: 5 former African presidents, 3 former presidents from Ghana, United Nations and African Union reps, training centers of excellence, among others. At the Accra briefing, the commandant of KAIPTC, Major General Francis Ofori, said the CAPS Forum will provide the platform to reflect on critical questions and explore solutions for further uptake in national and regional policy.
So this is meant to create a platform for us to understand what the protocol indicates, whether we have stuck to it, whether there has been that consistency to apply this normative framework.
The head of Elections and Democracy, Kofi Annan Foundation, Mr. Sebastian Brack, said this year's forum was carefully curated to address emerging threats to democracy and good governance in West Africa. He said, coincidentally, the forum will mark the 20th anniversary of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. The program manager, GIZ, Mr. Hans Lambridge, said progress made in elections, constitutional processes and day-to-day governing practices must be strengthened.
We need to continually reflect on the dividend of democratic practices to ordinary citizens. This year's forum is meant to provide gateways to regional action to support and foster effective democracy and good governance.
Topics will include democratic backsliding in West Africa, good governance and democratic consolidation, war to peace and democratic transition. The CAPS Forum honors the memory of former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, who dedicated the best part of his working life to the cause of global peace and security. The KAIPTC in Accra and the Kofi Annan Foundation in Geneva will host the second edition of the CAPS Forum.
President Akufo-Addo on Friday afternoon cut the tape and inspected the expansion of the Cargill Ghana processing plant at Tema. The president said the expansion works were a good and strategic move which falls in line with the government's industrialization agenda and the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda too.
The $13 million investment went into the expansion of the cocoa grinding capacity of the processing plant. The capacity of the plant has been increased by 20%, moving it up to a 90,000 tons capacity. Cargill believes this will help it meet customer demands. The president of Cargill Cocoa and Chocolate, Mr. Harold Pommer, said the new plant will enhance its operations and provide quality products for customers.
At Cargill, agriculture is how we deliver our sustainability commitments and empower cocoa growing communities. Our vision is to build sustainable and robust agri-food businesses in origin countries to help the world thrive.
The president, Nana Akufo-Addo, lauded Cargill for its expansion works, especially in the period of coronavirus pandemic. He said the government is working on new measures to make trade smooth in the AFTA zone.
The reduction in the number of inspection bodies at the ports and border posts, the harmonization and simplification of customs procedures and documentations under the integrated customs management system ICOMS, and the institutionalized engagements between government institutions responsible for the implementation of these agreements and the private sector are all geared towards ensuring that local businesses participate fully in these markets.
President Akufo-Addo again reiterated his government's commitment to support private sector companies to scale up.
MTN Foundation has presented one of the biggest supports to the COVID-19 National Trust Fund. In Accra on Friday, a team from the telecom giant was at the COVID-19 Trust Fund office to show up its activities with 5 million Ghana cedis.
The 10 million cedis from the Bank of Ghana to the Trust Fund, MTN's 5 million cedis, says the fund, is the second largest amount donated by a corporate entity since it started pooling resources for its activities. The amount will help with purchasing of vaccines, provision of oxygen at the various treatment centers, support those affected badly by the pandemic, and the campaign to combat the pandemic. To the chair of the National COVID-19 Trust Fund, such contributions will help to energize the fund's operations. Former Chief Justice of Ghana, Justice Ofaya Ekufo, is the chair of the Trust Fund.
I call on all here to join me in expressing sincere thanks and appreciation to the board, management and staff of MTN Ghana for this extraordinary and this very humane gesture.
The chief executive of MTN Ghana, Mr. Selom Adadivo, said in 2020 the company donated equipment and PPE valued at 5 million cedis to the fund and $25 million to the AU to secure vaccines to support Africa's vaccination drive. The latest support is the check for 5 million Ghana cedis.
This is to ensure the government strategy in combating the pandemic is fully achieved. So this presentation brings MTN's total contribution to the National COVID-19 Trust Fund to 10 million Ghana cedis over the 3-year period. We believe this will help immensely to provide the needed PPEs, education, and other services for the people of Ghana, but most importantly, to brighten the lives as we celebrate our 25th anniversary this year.
The 5 million cedi donations to the COVID-19 Trust Fund brings MTN support to the fund to 10 million cedis since the coronavirus broke out in the country.
You're watching News Hour live on GTV. In our Talk Ghana series today, we bring you some sights and sounds from Keta and Atorkor, where slave trading once boomed. Sarah Fori with the details.
My visit to parts of Keta in the Anglo district revealed some mesmerizing scenes. Indeed, the tourism and business potentials of the town cannot be underestimated. Talk of the water bodies, the vegetation, the landscape, the clean beaches, the people, their culture, their occupation. And this hotel on the lake, although abandoned, bears the resemblance of the western regions in Zulezu, the city on the river. At Fort Prison Time, one is met by a refreshing breeze from the sea. The fort is wearing off, obviously without maintenance. In the olden days, Atorkor was famous for its shrine, Atorkor Atolia, where people who had committed crimes were killed or murdered. However, Atorkor is also noted for another kind of trade.
What does Atorkor mean?
Atorkor means Matomanko, let me buy and go quick.
You were also telling me that this place was popular for slave trading, for which reason this center here or this edifice has been built to narrate the entire slave trading. This whole edifice, when was it built?
It was
When did the slave trade begin in Atorkor here?
1896. When the local merchant Ndokutu, when he heard that the foreigners merchants come to Cape Alumina, they put a flag on the shore. When the ship is going to Benin, Dota, where another slave market is there, they put a flag on the shore.
These are the ship captains?
Yes. When the foreigners came, they will come and see the chief in the town, give some drink.
Okay.
Like how you come here, you give me a drink.
Okay.
After negotiating of the business, the chief sent drummers to beat the drum for the community that they want them at Atorkor here.
Those who couldn't hear the beating of the drum, the gong trigger went.
We go to interior
part of the town.
Yes, such as Achito, Alapra, Tregi, Rani, Salo, and others. There is something here.
The price for a human being was less than a horse.
Yeah.
A male was sold for 300 cowries. A female was sold for 400 cowries. Females fetched more because they could produce child slaves.
There is in Dokusu.
Oh, okay.
Money make him like a chief. When some of the slaves was late by coming and the ship has gone, they tied them into coconut tree. They will rape them in the night. When you are stubborn, you are criminal, you do not mind. They advise you when you refuse, they will send you to this place.
Okay, and probably slaughter you?
Yes. You are talking about Major McQueen.
Yes.
These are his statues.
Okay, so this is the slave merchant in Glory Island in Scotland. Although there have been attempts to preserve the narration of the slave trade that happened in Atorkor here, even generations after it happened, this whole edifice seemed to be rotting away. You can see the statues are just chipping away, the irons are corroded and breaking off. I mean, there seems not to be any attempt to preserve this for generations yet to come, or generations unborn. Sarah Fori, GBC News, Atorkor in the Angno district.
Well, it's time to go for a break. We'll be back shortly with the business segment. Do stay.
Time now for the business segment, proudly brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. Good evening and welcome. I am Dorothy Achimai. We start off from the western region, where the people of Bokro in the Ahanta West municipality of the region can now inhale some clean air after suffering from air pollution emanating from an untarred road for years. Diamond Cement Company, which operates in the area, has tarred the 1 kilometer road after a stakeholders engagement aimed at finding a lasting solution to the problem. Kro, which is a farming community in the Ahanta West municipality, hosts Diamond Cement, the TVET campus of the Takrady Technical University (TTU), and other companies. Unfortunately, the town has been facing the challenge of dust pollution for decades. While some people blamed the situation on the frequent movement of haulage trucks owned by Diamond Cement, others blamed the authority in charge of roads construction. Having brought to the attention of the Western Regional Minister, Mr. Kwabena Daku Mensah, a stakeholders engagement attended by the Ahanta West Municipal Health Directorate, Omanhene of the Lower Diskoff, Nana Akwesi Ajimai, and the Western Regional Coordinating Council was held to look into the issue. At a press conference at Bokro, the regional director of the EPA, Mr. George Diowo, explained that a research conducted indicated that 70% of dust emissions come from the untarred road. The company attributed its inability to tar the road to the delay in getting approval from the appropriate state agencies. The acting general manager of Diamond Cement, Mr. Mohammed Majid Khan, commended the Western Regional Minister for his role in facilitating the issuance of the approval.
When the road is constructed, we are going to make concrete road up to the junction, which is like 0.69 kilometers. Because of the truck movement, you can see some dust on the road. But from plant side, there is no dust from the plant side. That is 100% we are giving a surety that one.
The Omanhene of Lower Diskoff, Nana Akwesi Ajimai, and some community members were happy about the turn of events. 90% of gold mined in the country is exported without value addition. This deprives the country from reaping the maximum revenue from gold exports. At a forum in Accra, the president of the Jewelers Association of Ghana, Mr. Jonathan Abebiu, called on gold producers to retain a percentage of their gold and sell it at competitive prices to indigenous refiners.
The mining sector accounts for about 27% of government revenue, contributing significantly to export revenue and employment. Amongst the minerals mined, gold accounts for about 90%. Despite Ghana being a major exporter of raw gold for more than a century, less than 1% is processed locally into jewelry, a situation the Jewelers Association of Ghana has described as worrying. The president of the Jewelers Association of Ghana is Mr. Jonathan Abebiu.
Ethical production and supply chain transparency are critical and fundamental steps to achieve in order to ensure that the jewelry creates a positive outcome for the planet and for the people. The concept of producing environmentally and socially responsible jewelry is hardly new, but it seems to be hitting mainstream channels with greater frequency.
The chief executive of Rapport Services, Madam Judy Graham, said another challenge that jewelers face is the stigmatization that Ghana's gold is composed of mercury.
Because most of the jewelry that is produced in Ghana, when it comes to stones, you see that they're using lab-developed stones like cubic zirconia, etc. But we have the real ones here. And so the effort we're making is to ensure that what we have is glamorized, is promoted, so that our jewelers will be able to use that in the jewelry they make.
Players in the jewelry industry are liaising with government to speed up the implementation of the 30% gold retention policy. This policy holds 30% of all gold mined solely to feed the local jewelry industry.
Let's have the performance of the local currency on the forex market and the price of gold, cocoa and large crude from the Commodity Board. And that's it in this package brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. Up next is the energy segment.
Welcome back. Senior Vice President and Head of Ghana Business Unit at Cosmos Energy, Mr. Joe Manson, says the company is increasing crude oil production despite the economic consequences of COVID-19. He said the company and its partners went through some struggles when the global pandemic peaked, but production is now picking up. Mr. Manson was speaking in Accra.
We went through some struggles during the COVID times, but now production has been quite steady. 80,000 barrels coming out of Jubilee, and close to 30,000 coming out of 10. And we're going to, the partnership, partnership going to invest about $4.2 billion over the next 10 years. We're going to do a lot more, wells that we are going to drill next year. So it's going to really bring production up. And on top of all of that, we're also going to be able to take advantage of our gas, because there's plenty of gas that we have. So we need to now, work with government to make sure that, all these talk about fertilizer plants, we need to see that in place. So that when we have all these gas that we have no place to take them, we can feed them into the fertilizer plants, get the urea that we need to pump up agriculture.
That's all for the energy segment. Health comes up shortly. To stay.
Good evening, still watching news on Ghana television. My name is Mavis Affair Champon. The health news is brought to you by Lufat. Health experts are worried about the increasing number of diabetes cases among young persons in the country. They are recommending a change in lifestyle, if not genetic, to help reduce the condition, which they described as a silent killer.
Diabetes is a non-communicable disease which is genetic but mostly predisposed through lifestyle. Research indicates that diabetes is a major cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attack, stroke, and lower limb amputation. Statistics show that out of 30 million people in Ghana, 280,000 adults have diabetes, while 1,200 children also have diabetes. The package of presentation now stands at 30 to 45 and even younger. Children who suffer from diabetes will have to be on insulin for life and have to be trained on what to do during emergency. Dr. Henrietta Fishin, an endocrinologist at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, said the high prevalence of diabetes among children and the youth can be attributed to the poor eating habits and the lack of exercise.
Usually we teach the children, so you'll be shocked that most children who have diabetes inject themselves. They do it on their own. They are comfortable. They are eager to do it. We train them, we teach them, and then subsequently we educate the the schools, how to manage the child in case there's an emergency.
There are different types of diabetes, which include type 1 diabetes found in children, type 2 in adults, 40 years, gestational diabetes in pregnant women, as well as others caused by some medications. At the training for media personnel on diabetes, its causes and effects, health experts treated media personnel to be mindful of what they eat, when and how. They say, considering the busy schedule of media personnel to meet deadlines, eating well becomes a problem, and this may predispose them to diabetes.
The health news was brought to you.